Hi guys, Harry here from the Art Gear Guide. Thanks very much for joining me. Just a quick kind of review or recap, whatever you want to call it. For those of you that have got Copic Markers, I'm sure you already know that Copic quite recently came out with a new refill, and a lot of people were kind of quite annoyed about it, and I'll get into the reasons why people were annoyed in a second. Ultimately, it's the same ink. It's just they're smaller, and I'm not too sure why I've got my own reasons as to the reasons why Copic have done this, but I'm not too sure what reason they've actually put out in a statement as to the reasons why they've done this. So the original Copic refill that a lot of us have always purchased and bought are these. Now, they hold 25ml of ink, and for the most part, even the most prolific Copic marker users, one of these will last you quite a long time. Now, they've got the pigment number on the cap here, on the end of the cap, and the pigment name as well, that corresponds with the actual marker that needs refilling. In this case, this one here is B055, which is processed blue, and I have the Copic Chow one of this. The new style that they have brought out is this one here. Now this is 12ml of ink, so that's a significant reduction in the amount of ink that Copic are giving people now. And in all honesty, it depends where you go, but in all honesty, these are not much cheaper, if cheaper at all, over the 25ml Copic refills. Now, there's still a lot of places that do the 25ml Copic refill, but eventually, sooner or later, they will run out, and all we will have is these ones here. It is a nice, when you've got your Copic markers all sat up, laid out or on a stacking system, whatever, these ones here don't really sit well in a lot of stacking systems, like the Spectrum Noir one and stuff like that. You have to lay it down on its side or diagonally, but they don't really sit in it this way, displaying the number. Whereas these ones here do. They fit in perfectly, and as you can see again, as with the old ones, you have the pigment number and the pigment name, and in this case this is BG07, which is petroleum blue. So the reason why a lot of people are annoyed about this is because Copic are the most expensive markers on the market, really. And the one saving grace about that was the refills. When you bought a marker and it ran out, you could get a refill, and it was basically like buying one of these refills was a little bit more expensive than the actual marker, like a sketch marker. And so you purchased one of these, and you could fill your marker up numerous amounts of times. And that was kind of like the saving grace, really, with getting involved in Copic markers. Now they've reduced the amount of ink you get, and they've kept the cost very, 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 very close to the old one. So you're not. It's not like you're saving money. They say that with this new one, the nozzle is the revolutionary part. So as you can see here, with this new Copic refill, the nozzle is quite long, whereas with the old one, it is short and stumpy. Let me just show you. It's quite short, quite stumpy, but at the end of the day, it still does the job, especially for someone like me. Now, a lot of the time, when you refill your marker, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to remove the nib, the brush nib, or the chisel nib, which will leave the reservoir here free for you to put the nozzle down into and fill it up. I personally don't fill my markers up like that, and the reason why is because taking the brush tip or the chisel tip off and on all the time, I personally think it causes problems with them over time. For me, I use the chisel nib, so this is how I fill up my markers. So I would get the marker, and just drop it onto the just drop it onto a few drops onto the chisel nib and let that absorb through, and that will go down into the reservoir just like it would. Now it does take longer to do it like this, but you're not taking your brush tip or your chisel tip out of the housing, causing problems with it over time. So for someone like me that fills their markers up like this, the nozzle, the new nozzle, the longer connected nozzle, it's not really a big bonus for me at all. So I personally think Copic should be looking at the market at the minute and understanding that there are many different companies now that are producing outstanding brush tip markers, outstanding chisel tip markers, and bullet nib if you go for the Copic original. And as a result of that, I would have expected Copic to be, trying to make sure that they can stay ahead of the game in that. Now, I'm not saying Copic are falling behind by any stretch of the imagination, because Copic are probably, they are the industry standard for illustrators and all kinds of artists that use markers. And the reason why that is because, the reason why is also one of their downfalls, I think, especially for new artists getting involved in alcohol markers, and that is the amount of different pigments that they have. I think it's 356 or 358 colors that they have in their color chart, and that's great for illustrators because there is a wide variety of pigments, but there's a lot of pigments that are very, very similar to each other. But for someone new coming into the alcohol marker scene, that can also be overwhelming, and they can be kind of like confused and flummoxed by the amount of pigments that they have. Whereas if they were to go to some of the other companies that might have 160, maybe 200 colors in their palette, that's a lot more manageable, and for the most part, most of them are a lot more cheaper. Also now, a lot of these companies are also coming out with the refills. I think that's where a lot of companies kind of like fell short previously, was that with markers, they didn't really come with refills, and it was just, purchase a new marker. Whereas now, a lot of these companies have come out with refills. And the refills for the majority of these companies as well are in and around the 25ml range. Some of them are less, but not all of them. The ones that are less are priced accordingly. So as much as I love my Copic markers, I just think it's wrong of Copic to be doing this. I know they're a business, they've got to make money, but there's no way in goodness that Copic are losing money. Their markers are incredibly expensive, and the refills are as well. I have all the prices over on the written review of this, so you can go across, take a look at the different prices for a sketch marker, an original marker, a Copic Chow, and also then the prices for the refills. Now, it is always important, let me just say before I finalize this, it is always important that you shop around when you're looking for these refills. They can come up so... in one place you could be paying £10 for a 25ml refill, In some other places you can pay £8. So there's a £2 difference. That's quite a significant drop. Same with these as well. I think these are for some places. These are being sold at like £7. So you can see the £7 as opposed to £8, and there's a significant drop in the amount of ink you get. 12mm as opposed to 25mm. So it's just one of those things. There's not a lot that people can do about it. You can't, if you're already an illustrator and you use Copic and you've got the entire collection like I do, you've just got to suck it up. It is what it is, and you're going to need these regardless. Copic could drop these down to 5mm and it doesn't matter, and they could sell them at £10. You're still going to have to use them if you make your living using Copic markers. And that's the only thing I'm not too keen on about the way some of these companies behave, where they just grab you by the throat and you don't have any wriggle room to get out of it. Really, after you've invested so much money and quite heavily into purchasing the entire collection. I think maybe I'm being a little bit harsh on Copic here. There may be a different reason why they've done this, why they've dropped this down to 12mm. I'm not 100% sure. I've researched it, I've had a look around. I couldn't see any really kind of like definitive statements from Copic stating the reason why they've done this, but nevertheless, that's it. I've done a review once before on the Copic markers and their numbering system and their color system, so if you're interested in that review, I'll have a link for it down below. You can go across and learn more about it. It's not complicated. Copic are probably up there with some of the best in terms of their numbering systems and the way they do their color range and stuff like that. So if you don't really understand how it works, take a look at that review video that I've done, and hopefully that will clear things up for you. Anyway guys, that's it for now. Thanks very much for watching this video. I look forward to seeing you all again very, very soon. Thanks. Bye.